What's up, party people? My name is Sunny Ray. It's the Sunny Ray Show. I'm excited today. This will be my third or fourth interview, but boy, are you in for a treat. I have a gentleman by the name of Will Fan. He's a builder's builder. He runs about 5 companies at once, spanning hardware, diagnostics, and digital assets, with one of them a battery diagnostics business. He got into Bitcoin in 2017 and never left. And his network in the space runs deep, reaching back to the earliest days of the industry. He's working on a really, really interesting project called the world's first Bitcoin car. So with that said, I'm going to bring on Will Fan. How's it going, bud?
Hi, Sunny. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. What on earth is a Bitcoin car?
Yeah, this goes back to the very original Satoshi white paper. And when I read the first paragraph, I was blown away. The fact that you can, make purchases with a digital currency, and buying, selling products through a platform. And that simply changed the way how we do payments, how new transactions are created, and these kind of things. So that sparked my interest back in 2016, and then that's when 2017 I actually started to implement it.
That is wild. I mean, yeah, and you even showed me pictures the other day, Will Fan, of this product, right? I don't know. I think you're maybe on your phone. Hey, I don't know if you can turn your phone to the side. It'll be in landscape mode. It might be a bit better if that's possible. What I was
Sounds
going to
good.
ask you was, I guess, fascinating. So you run about 5 companies. What's kind
Mm.
of the through line that connects them all, Will Fan?
Well, I run a hardware business. I always love hard tech. So one side is manufacturing. I have been a semiconductor business. So now, when I was a young boy, as a teenager, I've studied and built computer chips. I worked on cars. So, these are my two major like strengths and focuses. And then eventually, in the past, I also have a SaaS software business, e-commerce, and then got into logistics. And now, from the battery business, I got into diagnostic. So there's a few things, and you realize a lot of the current products, whether an electric car, a robot, a drone, and so you realize that all kind of physical AI and autonomy is going to be powered by a few components, which is the hardware, which is the mechanics of it, the actuators, the motors. You have the battery, and then the second is you have the chip, right? So the chip makes it function, right? Just like how we have the brain, but also we have the mind as well, right? So being in the software business helps create that as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So, is Bitcoin in 2017? What pulled you in, and like what made you stay through kind of all the cycles, Will Fan?
Yeah, so I was in BTC mining, ETH mining as well. So we developed one of the very first Ethereum miners, hashing for Ethereum on blockchain. So that was like my primitive technology that I invested. And surprisingly, we were able to compute and calculate that, and then somehow, we see tokens being created into our wallets, into our mining pool, and such. And we realized, hey, this thing works. And because it worked, we start to kind of like sell the bells and whistle and the shovels and everything of like how fantastic it is. And so I was one of the very first Ethereum creator and actually mining on a scale. So we started with a small cluster first. I unfortunately I didn't do it inside a home, but I did it inside an office, and then somehow business kind of grew from the office, and then we got into a warehouse, and then massive industry facilities, and then we start to build mobile containments, modular kind of like mining centers, in off grid, off the meter kind of thing, and so that's how we started the business.
That is crazy, dude. So your network reaches back to the kind of the industry's earliest days, right? How early did you see this space forming?
I the when I got into the industry, not many people understood it. Um, China at the time in 2018 was banning the mining sector, and so I started to import from Shanghai, and a lot of these miners are shut down. They need somebody to receive it in North America. So I was one of the guys that actually received a lot of these existing miners out of China, and kind of like that's how the relationship was built, but by servicing customers and then tapping to the supply chain and referrals. I think Bitcoin was very unique as you can't really market it. It's more of a referral business. The majority of our capital that was made and customers were purely from referrals. You can't really market this. You can kind of show you have kind of like this new concept of a data farm, but a lot of people don't understand it. And so you really need to know somebody that knows somebody, and that's how our business was built.
Yeah, I remember those olden days in the Bitcoin industry. And what did building a battery diagnostics company teach you about the car industry?
Yeah, so battery, nowadays, in the next few years, I mean, we have, tens of millions of electric cars out of warranty. They're, kind of being recycled. They have high mileage, and the goal is like, how do we just extend the battery life rather than replacing it? Because I had a lot of friends that had electric cars, and then they end up having to spend to replace it since they ran out of warranty. Some of them were having charging difficulties. Their power were being reduced and things like that. So we kind of found a way to kind of, I love like technology, sustainability, longevity. So how do we extend a vehicle's life? How do we extend a battery's life? And because the consumer market right now is everybody is what you call it, buying new vehicles, they're spending a lot of money. My goal is like, how can we save consumers money? Like, how can we reduce, their costs in terms of transportation? How can we, going back to the Bitcoin theory, it's creating democracy in equality and wealth, and creating accessibility for people to have things, right? And so I kind of realized, okay, well, why not just extend the battery life, and so people can keep their cars longer if they buy out the vehicle, and maybe they want to pass it down to kids, things like that. And that's kind of like where my mission came from.
Yeah, I love that. That makes a lot of sense and definitely resonates. And so, which builders or ideas kind of shaped how you operate across so many ventures?
Okay, repeat that again.
Which builders out there, Fan, are like or people or builders, right? In the world have shaped how you operate across so many ventures. Like, do you have someone that I don't know, you read their biography and you kind of look up to, or are you kind of just, I guess, paving your own path over here?
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely created my own path, but I would say a really huge contributor would be Elon Musk, because
Hmm.
he's a man of many trades. And back then you're taught, if you have many skills, you have no skills, right? If you're doing too many things, like you have nothing, that kind of thing. But no, the reality is, if you're an innovator, you have to create more things, because how innovation work is how it revolves around certain product or technology. So, like it's part of an evolution process. You wouldn't skip certain steps, in terms of that. So for us as innovator, it makes a lot of sense to do more, and because we have the capacity to do more, just by doing one thing, I mean. You're going to be limited and siloed to that one product. And the innovation stops when you can't build around anything anymore. And, like what Albert Einstein said, if you're doing something over and over again, it's like insanity, right? And so what we are is we want to have the logic, putting the logic together. Does it make sense to add this on top of that? Like back then people say, oh, why reinvent the wheel? Why reinvent the car? Well, gas is expensive. It's high maintenance. Why not just become an electric car? Lower maintenance. I have an electric car for so many years. I don't remember, or I don't have a gas budget anymore. It's not part of my plan anymore. So by eliminating that, that changes everything. And so it's just an evolution to what society will become, right?
I just took my family to New York. We live in Toronto, and it costs us a total of $0 technically because we drive a Model X. So, yeah, I agree with you, man. It's the world's definitely changing. So I guess, Will Fan, what skills from your earlier companies do you lean on most today?
Um, Manufacturing, like currently I am a electric car manufacturer. We're one of the only ones in Canada. We're called Solo Automotive. We manufacture these tiny little cars, single passenger, three-wheel car. And so the goal and concept of that is really make transportation affordable. It's for urban mobility, right? And we want to make something, a product of this accessible to the public as much as possible. I always get a lot of inquiries that cars are too expensive. You go to a dealership, your average car is like, 60,000 or more, right? And so these kind of things, I really thanks to the customers that give me the feedback that allows me to validate my project. And so I didn't start off as a manufacturer. I primarily made my good chunk of wealth from software, SaaS. Back then we were building landing pages, sales funnels, e-commerce for software platforms, and now that business is gone. Like you have Facebook taking over, you have like a Shopify, Canvas. You don't really need us anymore. So my industry pivot, but then we made enough money to pivot. So it's kind of like that question, that kind of like what do you do with your money? The common question after you make all your money, what do you do with it, right? I basically hit about $10 million as an individual. So here you're like in your late 20s. What do you do with all that resource and capital, like as an individual? As a high net worth individual, what do you do? So you naturally would spend it, but I intend to invest in it. And then so I didn't want to like retire. I think they say if you make 10 million, you can retire for the rest of your life. I don't think it's possible because of inflation and there's habits, things like that. People health can go wrong, and you want to be able to maximize your opportunity, your purpose as much as you can. And if you're young, why not? We start again, and that's what I did. I invested in a few businesses in batteries, manufacturing, transportation. So these kind of things that like I would put all my money in, and but I look at the bright side. It was rough to start over like that again, but at the same time, the opportunity just grew, and my life is filled with meaningful joy and very high hope of the future. And I think that's what most people should feel.
And that's very touching. I love it, man. Will Fan, when did the idea click for you that a car and Bitcoin belong together? And what does that even mean, a Bitcoin car? Like, can they just pay in Bitcoin, or does it go further?
Yeah, so I mean, I look at when I bought my first car, right? I went to the dealership, I went through my credit check, I went through my financial statements, and I asked myself, at the time, it was very odd because why do we need to go through that stringent process? Like I'm a full-time employee at the time. Even in my life, running as a business, I still have to go through a 1 year annual, submission, your credit check. But not every day people are going to have good credits. Not every day people are going to have a stable job. Like, what if you need a car, but you are unemployed for that 1 year? So it's not fair to somebody that because they're recovering from maybe a tragedy, or maybe they need a break off, and or they got unemployed. So during this transition period, it's very awkward, and they need to survive on the credits and such. So I was like, what other form of payment can exclude people from this very complicated process? And I look at Bitcoin, and because I'm in it, I was like, wait a minute, it's a peer-to-peer transaction. You can keep your Bitcoin and let the volatility grow. That blew my mind. I got in Bitcoin when it was $2,000. Now it's what, 60 US or something? I don't know. But I realized, wait a minute, you don't need to save up. You can just save up a Bitcoin and it would get you there way quicker than if you were to save up. So that kind of blew my mind that that was possible. And because I had the experience when Bitcoin was 2,000 and it got to 30,000. And then later on, that allowed me to accumulate a certain access to capital wealth. And then that allows me to invest. That allows me to ultimately change my life, as you can see, right?
Oh man, it's so inspirational, man. I love this story. So I guess why build the world's first Bitcoin car quietly instead of announcing it early?
Bitcoin community and I mean, just the electric car industry as well. We always get scrutinized by everyone, right? And I don't think if we launch it right away would be a proactive thing. We would need to partner with a lot of people, platforms. I mean, RWA payments are going to be very big. Now, when I say RWA, I'm not talking about how the finance bros kind of like created that world of confusion. It really is, right? I understood it from Satoshi's original white paper was a physical product, a peer-to-peer transaction, digitized, decentralized, protects the seller, right? And I noticed this amongst people who are in manufacturing. I'm a manufacturer. I wholesale and I retail, and I noticed that consumers have a kind of abusive power. You go to Costco and Walmart, you kind of see the situation where people refund. I have friends on Amazon that are losing money, 5 figures a month, just to be on the platform because they couldn't absorb the refund policy and the buyer abusing rights, right? So now Bitcoin prevents all this. If you have a good product and somebody's willing to buy it, that's it, right? It's proving a transaction is done there, and that protects both sides. That hey, there's a valid seller and then there's a valid buyer, right? So I see that as a way to protect manufacturing. Right now, manufacturers, wholesalers, retail, they're losing a lot of money. Like it's kind of like if somebody walked in a restaurant and they didn't pay their bill and they say I don't like the service, but you still ate the food. That's the reality, right? And now the restaurant's out, $100 for this table, right? And they're just doing their job. They're just providing a service or product. That's it.
So what makes a car a Bitcoin car? Like the payments part you talked about, is it treasury, ownership? I mean, all of it. Right? Is each car also kind of like represented on the blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain? I mean, like, well, how deep does this go? Right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, or is it something now and the vision is furthermore? But like, just curious, can you double click? Because I mean, yeah, I mean, it's such a captivating kind of, such an interesting idea to be marrying these two ideas. But I mean, you can kind of let your mind go wild and it can,
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
who knows what's possible, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really thank Elon. Technically, he was the first one to do it during COVID, and he accepted Bitcoin and Doge on the Tesla platform. And so, first, real world asset. We talk about a real valuable product, right? And then you have the cost of the digital currency, which is equal to that product, right? So, for example, if you buy a Tesla now with Bitcoin, the current market price, you can buy a Tesla outright, pay in full with a Bitcoin today, right? And so Tesla, they had only a 1 year window to do this, but guess what? They sold Bitcoin at a certain price during the market a few years ago. They have a $1 billion. I think they're one of the largest holders and treasurer of Bitcoin. I think the top 15 or something like that. So you realize, wow, a physical product, a real RWA, real world asset, suddenly you bought and sold Bitcoin with that, and then you accumulate that. now you're a treasurer of that, right? And now his like balance sheet is like Bitcoin a billion plus, right? And so one part is you can buy it with a Bitcoin. The second is you accumulate the first product to accumulate with an asset. Why I call myself the Bitcoin car is because the Solo is a very unique vehicle. I mean, you can show it to your audience later, but this single passenger three wheel car is so unique. It's not like an overly commercial product, right? And so I can kind of use this design angle to get it out to the audience, and it's just a fun factor, right? And then with that, I'm hoping to inspire other manufacturers to do the same thing, have Bitcoin into your balance sheet. Like right now, I have friends that are using stable coins to do servicing, like buy, sell, and trade. But right now, some of these platforms they're running out of liquidity. Some are going bankrupt, and you don't have something like Bitcoin, which banks can back you up. So we have something called FSP, financial service provider. What they would do is they validate native coins like Bitcoin. If you have a certain amount of Bitcoin in your treasury, okay, well the bank will lend you a certain money against that to pay a supplier. Most suppliers and supply chain today will not accept Bitcoin, will not accept other altcoins because they need liquidity. So you'll always need someone to buy and sell stable coin or altcoin and things like that. But it's very fragmented, and I also think the problem is why people aren't using Bitcoin is because first they don't know, and not many platform accepts it, and now many platform actually confuse the majority of the world how it's used. And I think what ZC said from Binance, he say only 1% of the world or less than that is using Bitcoin. And I think he's definitely right. Like a lot of people aren't using it. And if we can increase the adoption with Bitcoin and having this unique vehicle that you're displaying right now on this show, like we will start with that, and then other manufacturers will follow in suit of that. Oh,
Fascinating,
yeah,
fascinating.
there you go.
Hey, Will Fan, can you kind of talk through the design of the car? Because I know when I first saw it, I kind of had to do a double take because at first glance it looks kind of like the front half of a car. Maybe design wise, you chose that purposefully to. But I'm just curious, like, I mean, that cost point is stunningly low and reachable by the masses. You've also got very unique design. Like, why don't I see cars like this in the market? I mean, can you just talk through some of this? It's really, really interesting.
Yeah, so we here at Solo, this was a predecessor. I didn't design it. So one of my partner, he designed it, and it was based off the Corbin Sparrow, which if you ever watch Austin Powers, like they have this tiny little car, and it was a very unique car, and it wasn't like a overly commercial, overly produced vehicle until we modernized it. So we kind of modernized off the Corbin Sparrow, and you can see that this design, it looks like a half the shape of a car, but it was necessary because so in terms of aerodynamic, it is one of the most aerodynamic vehicle on the market because it has no vents. It doesn't have like all these like aggressive design. It's simply a teardrop design, and that's the most aerodynamic efficiency vehicle design you can ever have. And based on that design, we also look at reducing the weight. We have to reduce the structure to get down the cost. So just imagine you buy a car today, every what you call vacant space costs you more than $5,000 of real estate inside the vehicle. So we remove all of that so that someone like you see in this video, or someone is just driving by themselves doing errands. They're not bringing 4 additional empty seats and weight when they're simply grabbing a grocery or going to the gym, going to school, going to work. We live in a very efficient economy. People are like I would say, like even in Asia and in North America, 50% of the workers are gig economy. So Uber drivers, people who are actors, people who are doing contract work, they're simply just getting in and out of the vehicle. And they just need a transportation vehicle to get them around. That's it, right? But you can fit a decent sized suitcase at the back or the front.
That is so badass. That is amazing, dude. Great job. Like everything you say just makes so much sense. And you're right. Like, I mean, what percentage of drives are just like one dude sitting there picking his nose? And like, why? It's just overkill, over engineering.
Look at New York, LA traffic. You always see only one person in there, and look at the multi-passenger HOV lanes. Motorcycles can go on there, EVs can. From where I am in Canada, we can, and so it's just much easier. I can tell you the other day there was this huge traffic. There was only 2 lanes. However, there was this one little tiny lane. Now I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe it wasn't a lane you're supposed to go in. But however, the second lane was so wide that every car stayed within the line. They're in good order. I would have been late for a meeting for about 1 hour. So I got into this very unique space, and I drove blocks and blocks. I passed maybe a few hundred cars, and I got to my destination without any traffic issue. It's because the cars think a lot of people cars are thicker, and so when you have a thinner car, you can actually squeeze through these crevices. And I should have taken video that day because I don't think I can reproduce that traffic. But it was 2 lanes. One lane happened to be wider than this main lane, and then traffic was definitely we were stuck in it for more than an hour.
Kind of like the best
yeah.
of like motorbike and of a car, right? Like, because motorbikes are so agile, but most people would never touch a motorbike with just because of the safety. But so you're
It's
kind of
scary. A lot of
riding
people
this
are.
like middle ground, right? Like the iPad of cars or something. That's super cool, man. Where does the RWA fit? Like, I know you touched on it, but is the car itself a real world asset on chain, or am I kind of, I guess,
We're going to put it on
finance
chain.
broing it a little bit here?
Yeah. So, real world asset, we are defined by its real definition, which is real world assets. And yes, we will put it on chain. Imagine this: if we have this kind of utopian world where, imagine this: you go to a hotel, they accept Bitcoin. You go to a restaurant, they accept it. You buy your clothes, you buy your services, they accept it, and you never need to go back to the bank ever. Just imagine that kind of world. In the future, what it would look like. And we have people like Elon saying, one day there's universal basic income. There's not enough jobs going around. People's going to contribute back to the blockchain or the servicing industry somehow, right? And so, I want to be able to be one of the very first to create that world, that new frontier. I mean, back then people were doing like what metaverse and all that stuff, right? And I was like, what the heck is that? It's like a video game. Like you might as well just join a video game, right? I was like, well, in order to encourage financial service provider, in order to encourage service provider and also manufacturers and product-based manufacturers, we want to be able to start initiating people using Bitcoin, right? And it's one of the very few native tokens that the bank recognizes. Like you can actually get liquidity from, right? If you use stablecoin, you need to find somebody, a service provider, to give you money for your stablecoin, right? And that kind of thing. And so, but a lot of people don't understand it. They can't get access to it, but they know how to buy Bitcoin. We just want to go back from the bare basic of Bitcoin, right? It's just transact. But if your wallet, your tokens increases based on the market price value, and why don't you just hold the Bitcoin until you can afford your next new car, your next computer, your next vacation, right? Things like that, right? The airline starts accepting Bitcoin, right? So we want to stick to the orange coin that we know of, or the gold coin, right? And so I think this will help users adopt right away, because people tell me they don't know what stablecoin is, they don't know what's Tether, XRP, those are more sophisticated users. And if we don't go back to the original white paper, the original statement, we'll never get people to adopt Bitcoin at this point, right? And might as well the central bank creates a digital currency, and then that's it. You're back into that loop, and we want to be in a way to decentralize yourself from the main central banks. Because if we ask ourselves, if we don't create a decentralized economy, what does it look like 50 years from now? That still the banks are going to run your credit card, they're going to run your mortgage, they're going to run your banks and assets and everything. So, to the point, we want to get to be decentralized as soon as possible from the central bank, because the central bank doesn't work anymore for the everyday average people, right? So we want it to work for us, for the everyday people.
And after your home, what's the second biggest thing everyone spends money on? Their car.
Yes.
So I mean, what a beautiful place to start. Wow, it's all starting to make sense, man. This is huge. What a massive vision. What's the hardest problem you hit building it so far?
Well, it's, when you build a business like this, manufacturing, you're working with global supply chain, it's an unusual business because your capital, your relationship, your energy, your mindset is completely changed. Like I definitely, I can tell you this, I don't have a regular life anymore at this rate. And, from the regular viewers, and people have different perspectives of someone like me who's risking it all when he could have stopped somewhere and taken a private jet to the Bahamas, right? But I didn't do that. Right? I didn't do it. So I walked away from what everyone had dreamt of, which was a very comfortable life that they can live in, get married, and all sort of things. But I kind of had a different awakening that there's more than that, and so I was willing to sacrifice the previous life for a new life. And I'm back in the game. Like, people think I started from zero. Yes, I did, but that was more than 10 years ago, maybe 13 years and a half. So what I'm saying is I came back into the game, and a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to do it another time. Now, I've been back in the game 5 times. I made it out 5 times. Most people, they start business one time, they die on the first or second time, that's it, and they're done, right? So I kind of played a self-repeating record game on myself, beating myself each time on the first prize, right? That kind of thing.
And what surprised you most once you started, putting Bitcoin and hardware together?
Oh, can you repeat that again?
What surprised you the most once you started putting Bitcoin and hardware together?
Well, a lot of people got interested. Like, I definitely got a lot of requests. People told me, investment companies, people were doing RWA and real world assets that were just, I get bombarded on like whether X or Discord, and get like a lot of message from social media, emails. They heard about me. And when people hear somebody's creating this kind of initiative, people listen, they refer, and then they tell other people, and then they'll try and find me. And I can tell if I release this suddenly, my mailbox will be flooded, and I'll kind of have an admin issue there. And so I want to be able to share individually, and then kind of get a community together to build truly what is a real world asset. Right? Now, not the finance bros, how they structure crypto. That's a different language. I'm talking about, what can you buy with a token today, right? And if you can't afford something today, can you save up? Well, yes, you can. And you rely on that volatility in the market to go up so that you can buy something at a later price. So we offer that too.
Got it. Super interesting. Can you walk us through the launch? Like, what does the world see first?
We'll probably have to create a new payment gateway or a platform to allow this to happen. And once I create the concept white paper, and then I can sell it off to other OEMs. And then other OEMs manufacturer, original equipment manufacturer, they can start to model it after me, but they want to first see it successfully done through me because I'm bearing all the risks. I'm doing all the R&D, and I'm technically, yes, trailblazing this. And thanks to Elon, because he's already created a roadmap for us. And even before what Elon did, I already knew 10 years ago Bitcoin was, this was the original plan of Satoshi, right? So really following that concept, that original idea, I would say.
And you want, other manufacturers to adopt the model, right? So what's the pitch to them?
Well, we can tell them how they can make money, what the structure is like, how to essentially like you eventually get into like architecture solution, because now in the real world you have to pay back your lenders, you have interest rates, you have inflation, many logistic costs, right? And how we can kind of fill in the gap is how do we reduce those costs first? One, eliminate those costs, eliminate cross-border payment issues, right? And having lenders to help you back you up when you need the money. And so if you try to talk to NVIDIA today and ask TSMC to accept Bitcoin, they won't do it, right? They want real money because they got to pay back the real world, real fiat currency, right? So not until we create the first decentralized economy, it's kind of like if we created Tron, the first world of Tron, right? And the actual like movie, right? Where you built its own economy, right? It has its own ecosystem. So we have to build kind of like our own network, and then attracting other people to jump on board and getting onto this network. And that's the way how we can increase the adoption.
And we'll find like, so are you taking the Bitcoin and selling it and then paying your everyone downstream, right? All the materials and the people, or are you paying all of them in Bitcoin, or is it both? Like one is you're in one camp and you're moving towards the other over time or something?
Yeah. In the latter, I mean, we would love every supply chain. Like if you're building a car, you want to pay your tire supplier with Bitcoin. You want to pay your motors, your batteries, with Bitcoin. But none of that will happen unless we architect in a way financially convince banks, lenders, investors, and such to believe that we can build the first decentralized platform, totally decentralized on all chain, right? And I think, and this goes back to our kind of utopian theory that if you can live in a special island and this island is just circulating with Bitcoin and crypto and such. And later on, yes, other altcoin, stable coins will enter into the economy, but we need to first get into the most lucrative, most volatile in a good way, which is Bitcoin, and getting new users, getting people to adapt into it as soon as possible, right? So that we can encourage manufacturers that, hey, this is what we've done, and this is how it works in the ladder of the whole process, right?
I guess two questions. Autonomy. Can you speak to that? My Tesla drives itself. That's one of the coolest things about it. Is that coming down the pipe? And a second question, maybe I'll just get this one out of the way. Do you see a future where my Bitcoin car is passing yours on the highway and giving you a couple of sats to do it?
Absolutely. I mean, we can definitely gamify the whole thing. I mean, imagine if my solo car is doing 5 trips, you're doing 10 trips, so you're providing more value into the economy than I am, right? And definitely you can win like rewards and bonuses just simply by producing more in blockchain, and that the whole network can see it, right? And so, we will be implementing some of these technologies for sure, and that can be also tracked onto the blockchain. And even a car, it can be hedged like a token, like you say, like a solo token, so for every car you buy, that token is specialized to you. It's like that is the value of the car is one, it belongs to you, but what if the other side of the world, which is our decentralized platform, there is value on that side, right? Where maybe there are co-ownership of that token, which goes back and hedge to the car, right? That kind of thing, right?
I see where you're going. Whoa, this is wild, dude. Okay, so I guess with 5 companies now under your belt, like how do you decide where your time goes, Will Fan?
I just have to prioritize. Like every day, I'm running all of my businesses, like whether electric car, battery rebalancing, AI chips. I'm doing logistics, e-commerce, and so whenever my empty slot, my hours are available, then I slide them in. And so technically, I can do it all at once every day. And the most important thing I want to tell to the viewers is prioritize your schedule. Like I always say, do you need to be in that meeting? Do you need to meet that person? Are you qualifying your lead, or do you really need to talk to that person? And there's 3 types of busy. I say that if you don't run more than 5 companies like me, you're not as busy as me. That's number one. Number two, if you're busy surviving, then you're not really busy. It's the wrong kind of busy, right? It's just inefficiency, right? And then number 3 is you're busy doing nothing. You're busy on Netflix or doom scrolling. And so there's 3 types of busy. I always tell people you got to find yourself which kind of busy you are. But I noticed that running multiple businesses actually give me more time. And when I was really busy, no time, less money. Isn't that interesting? And a lot of people always say they're busy, and I said, no, you're not. I'm running 5 companies, and I can still go out with my friends if I wanted to. I can go watch a movie. I can go travel. They're not that busy, right? So
It's all about perspective. So what are you pushing hardest on in the next 90 days, and what's the deadline?
yeah, so I am can't say much because I'm in the middle of confidentiality, but I am taking one of my company onto the Nasdaq in the next month here. I also have more partnerships coming up in terms of manufacturing. I really love cars, and I want to get these affordable cars. They're only $15,000 US, and we've been getting a lot of inquiries. When are these cars out? I want to buy one because I can't go to a dealership and buy a $50,000-$60,000 car, or somebody would tell me they don't have the income or budget or the credit score. I'm like, I hear this way too much. Thousands of people inquired, so I gotta really service my customers because this is what they're telling me, and I'm listening to them, right? They're real people, real voices, right? They're not, in my head. They are now because they've already told me, right? So I do need to, kind of like what Elon does is sleep in a factory, just focus on production, get the cars out ASAP, right? As soon as possible.
And what did raising teach you about capital in this space, Will Fan?
Uh,
Like, did you guys raise capital, or have you self-funded everything?
well, I self-funded everything in the beginning. I think in just in the last few years, I started to raise, but it's raising right now. You have to, one, be very specialized in what you do. You have to be very unique, as niche as possible, and you got to attract, like you say, you need that like it factor, right? If you have the same old story, it might not work. If you're in an industry that's stagnant, it might not work. So raising capital is based on your milestone accomplishments. People, they want success. They want to see you doing well. They want to follow you because they also in themselves need that help. And so, how I define, success right now is just simply getting products out, serving customers, and that would attract investment. That is how you get your valuation up. And when people see your car, they either become your investor or your clients. So I'm not just limited to my cars. I mean, I can produce many other products as well. And so I think raising capital, it's going to be harder for a lot of people. This is why we took the NASDAQ public company route, is because there's more liquidity on the stock side. And like I say, if we don't go decentralized sooner, the wealth income inequality will be so much wider, where I believe less than 10% of the world will be holding majority of the 9% wealth. And I'm already seeing that happen, or maybe it's because I'm in a circle that is already there and I can see it from where they're seeing it. And I can see the world where everybody is scrambling for a few $1,000. And so we want to be able to be decentralized as soon as possible. If not, then the wealth equality, then people are going to delay their home purchases or starting a family and things like that. So and that's for the everyday people. For me, I have a different mission. I want to be able to invest and grow into manufacturing and produce great products. So depending where people are at right now in their life.
So normally I say help me land the plane, but maybe help me land the Bitcoin car or park the Bitcoin car. What do you want founders watching this to take from the Bitcoin car story?
Yeah, definitely be very innovative. I want RWA to really transition from the finance narrative to a real world asset, physical commodity, buy and sell. You have the product, is yours. You bought it with crypto. Back then when somebody bought a house with crypto or a Lamborghini with crypto, it was a huge moment that you have another form of currency that appreciates over time, and that's how they bought it, right? They can't afford a house at $500,000 to $1 million, so get into Bitcoin now and just wait it out, right? And you will be able to keep up with inflation. So we want people to adapt into our ecosystem, get into this whole economy of real world assets, by putting products on chain. And once I figure out all this kind of financial logistic and architecture, I will release it. But first I'm going to have to do it with the existing manufacturer I have and the people I know. And that's how trust is built. And I have to lead that to the manufacturers. And then eventually later on, we'll be able to help young business owners that are starting, let's say, a e-commerce store, but they can't absorb Bitcoin because they need to pay their suppliers in real cash. So we're going to solve a lot of that issue later on.
Wow, dude. What an interview, what a company, what a vision. Super inspiring. Where do people learn more about the Bitcoin car and Solo? Where do people learn more about you? And then then I'll bring this stream to an end. Amazing.
Yeah,
I'm just blown away.
Yeah, I mean, our website solo.car, we're accepting just payments over Visa, regular currency, and then later on we will accept crypto. I will build on a separate platform if needed to kind of aggregate the other product producer manufacturers onto my other platform, not limited to just one car. The car is just there to start the revolution. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, or social media, WillFanX, or just WillFan, and you'll find me. I'm probably the only and youngest electric vehicle manufacturer currently to date in the world. I don't see the next generation doing it. This is a very costly journey, and then definitely manufacturing is not for all, but I'm willing to be that person to understand the old world and the new world, and then put them together. So that's my role.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, man. You've got a big challenge ahead of you, but I think it's a noble one. And what's not to love, man? Bitcoin car. We have quite a few people listening live as well. Thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Thank you, WillFan, for your time. Well, WillFan, just hang out for 1 minute. I'm going to bring this stream to an end. Until next time, everyone. That's the last one for the day. See you tomorrow.